Hello lovely people, how are you all today? I hope you're all feeling absolutely marvellous. Today it's all about the tomatoes. It's a beautiful warm day, in fact it's too warm to really be in the kitchen, but we are continuing to have rain. We're just not catching much of a break at the moment, so I thought that's fine. It's really time to get stuck into the tomatoes anyway and make the most of what I have picked already, because with this rain and warmth, yeah, that blight's on its way. I don't know how much longer we've got, we can hold it off, but let's make the most of the tomatoes we've got now. So I preserve my tomatoes using two methods. One is freezing and the other is bottling. It tends to kind of be that at the beginning of the season I freeze because the tomatoes are coming in dribs and drabs and you really need a big quantity to make bottling worthwhile. Then towards the end of August, beginning of September, when I'm suddenly absolutely inundated, fingers crossed, in previous years anyway, when I have masses and masses, then it makes bottling worthwhile. And then again at the end of the season, when the dribs and drabs are coming in, I go back to freezing. Now you can, with freezing, you can actually freeze your cherry tomatoes whole, and then when they come out and you defrost them, they actually slip out their skins really easily. But whole tomatoes in the freezer take up a lot of room. So I'll show you the way I do it for myself in order to really maximise how much I can get into the freezer, and I get loads in. Just before I show you the freezing thing, I just want to talk through bottling momentarily. I've kind of made the decision I'm not going to do a bottling video, purely because bottling tomatoes is a very precise art, if you like. And if you get anything slightly wrong, you are at risk of botulism, which is nasty. So do your own research, get your own recipes, do it yourself. But I'm just going to show you what I use so that you've got an idea of the kind of kit you need. Now, first things first, I invested, I'm going to see if we can get the up close up. I invested in this book about 3 years ago. It's fantastic, look at it, it's a chunky monkey of a book. It's the Ball canning book. So Ball is the North American brand. Anyone in the UK who's familiar with our Kilner jars, good old Kilner. I don't know if it'll pick up the word Kilner on there. So these are the jars we use in the UK, Kilner. I think in the States you also have Mason jars, is it? I think. Anyway, it's a great book. There are notes on sort of techniques, equipment, all that sort of thing, plus the important thing, the recipes. So the thing with tomatoes is you have to add acid. The recipe in this particular book uses lemon juice. That's what I follow. So in terms of kit, because you'll be doing it in a big quantity, I have a massive pan. This is what I kind of mush them down in to start with. And then the star of the show, actually let me bring you round this blooming tripod that's failed me. This is what's known as a water bath canner. Big, I don't actually know how many litres it holds, but it's a bit of a giant beast on there, as you can see. And then inside it has this rack. Let me show you, I can bring it out. And this is what all the bottles stand on, and it just keeps them off the bottom of the pan, because you don't want the glass jars to actually come into contact with that direct heat. It sits in there, all crash bang up. This fits 9 jars, which is the equivalent of £9. Let me just show you the jars as well. I'm just going to pop you guys back there a second because I need 2 hands. So I use the £1 jars by Kilner. Most of you, anyone who's done any home bottling will be familiar with this system. So you have your glass bottle, jar, recyclable over and over and over and over and over again. In fact, I've got some that were from my great aunt's house that she's had since the 40s. Then you have the little disc, which if you have a little look on the back, you see there's a rubberized ring. This helps make the seal. That goes on top of your jar. And then there's the screw lid, which sits on top. The screw band can be recycled a few times. They recommend up to 10 uses and then get a new screw band. The seal part, you use a new one every single time, because once you've opened your bottle later on in the year, the seal is broken. Other bits and bobs of kit that you'll need, just some really useful little bits. This is one of the most useful things. I'm going to try and show you from the side. You see this is sort of rubberized, and you'll see it's a bit shaped. So basically, when the jars are hot and you're lifting them out of the water bath, you kind of grip them like that, lift them out, and then set them to dry. This, can you see it, is really useful. It's got a little magnet in the end. So when you've got your seal lids sterilising, you basically pull it out of your hot sterilising bath like that in order to put it on the jar with no fingers, no touch involved. So all of this equipment I sterilise with my jars and lids and everything before I obviously use them to do my bottling. It's a fairly lengthy process. I would say in terms of the initial prep, I probably spend about half an hour with the tomatoes on the stove prepping them. Whilst they're being prepped, I usually have the water bath kind of full, bubbling away with the jars inside it. That's sterilising them. Then once the jars are full and the lids are on, etc, etc, they go back in the canner, and various recipes give various different times, but then I boil my now full bottles for a couple of hours. I think it's 2 hours. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head from this time last year. That's why I don't want to do a video. Like I say, the best thing is get yourself a recipe book. That's the ball canning book. It's been brilliant. Get yourself, in terms of the cost of the equipment, I got a really, really good deal. I have seen the water bath canners on sale for 50 quid, and then all the different accessories, sort of 15, 20 quid for a pack. But I went to, I think it was eBay, and I managed to get the canner, the rack, all the little bits of accessories for 25 quid, including postage. Brilliant. I took the plunge about, I think it was 3 years ago, and haven't looked back, and I haven't killed myself with botulism, so I'm obviously getting it right. But like I said, go out, do your research, find a recipe, and give it a go, because it's a really useful way to store without the use of electricity in terms of the freezer. So today's little bunch, let's have a little wee look at them. Like I say, at the moment they're just coming in dribs and drabs. This isn't enough to bother sort of firing up the water bath canner for, but I don't want to leave them sitting around, so I'm going to start the process of getting them frozen, and I will show you as we go along. So the first step for me is to get rid of the skins. You don't have to by any means, I just prefer them without the skins. If I'm cooking them from fresh, I sometimes do leave the skins on. It depends how tender they are. Dead easy. I've got a pan on the stove which is going to start bubbling away in a minute. And much as you would think of with blanching, I'm just going to tip a bunch of tomatoes in, a few bunches at a time. Give them about a minute in the boiling water, and that's enough to just give the skins a little bit of a pop. Quickly drain those, save the water because it's hot. Back on the stove, next bunch, and so on and so forth. So that I'll end up with a bowl of tomatoes where the skins have popped, and then we'll skin them. I have just been sent from a dear friend in the States a food mill, which I guess some of you have them already, but that's a way of basically grinding the tomatoes down initially, whereby you separate the skin and pips from the juice and the flesh. Now I had a little go with it last night. I didn't get anywhere. I just had tomatoes going around and around in a circle, not changing. So I think I'm doing something wrong. I basically need to practice with it a little bit more before I share my appalling technique with you. So today I'm just going to do it old school, split the skins by boiling them for momentarily and then taking them off. So I will catch up with you in a minute when we're at the stage of actually peeling and mushing. So it's taken about, just looking at the clock, about 7-8 minutes to get this lot boiled, to break their skins open. Let me just show you how they're looking now. And then we'll start skinning. There we go, you can see, and actually there's a fair bit of juice coming out there. When we get to the bottom of the bowl, we're not going to waste that. I'm going to start skinning them now, but just a quick word before I do, because it is something I get asked quite a bit. Why don't I just make this lot right now into pasta sauce, bolognese sauce, tomato soup, etc, etc, etc. With all my veg, when I'm preserving or storing them, I want to do them kind of as au naturel as possible. I want them to be in as close a state to they were raw, if that makes sense. Just because then further down the line it gives me more flexibility. So if I was to turn this lot into soup, which I love, and put it in the freezer, that'd be great, that's meals for the winter. But then what if I need a base for a curry or a chilli or any of those things? I've kind of shot myself in the foot because I've turned them all into soup. So they're literally just going in as plain tomatoes, no garlic, no herbs, nothing. And it's the same, excuse me, I was mentioning the other day about the beans, about pickling things as a way of preserving. If I pickled things, I think pickled beans in a soup would be pretty rank, so I'm not going to do it. Anyway, let's crack on. I put my pinny on, my lovely pinny from my Robin nurses when I left, because I'm going to be messy now. I'm just going to try and tip you guys down. This tripod is being super, oh, it's worked. I was going to say it's being super duper naughty. I will sort a new one out at some point. Let's have you there. Because I just want to show you, they're still quite hot. You need kind of asbestos fingers at this stage. So, oh, that one's peeled itself before I can get it out. I'm going to try and show you this. See how that little 1 minute in boiling water just pops the skins off. Oops, easy peasy, tomato squeezy. Sometimes they come out whole, it's not popped, but a little prick from a sharp knife, do it over the bowl that you're keeping your tomatoes in. That's just enough, I'm trying to show you, that's just enough to, actually I didn't show you very well, it's just enough to let it escape. So there we go, another one that's not popped. Just in with the sharp point of a knife. This is bursting out already. Ooh, juice everywhere. And then it will literally just push out like that. So, wow, I've got quite a lot to do. This will probably, whee, another squirter. I'm trying to show you this time. See, and then it just, oh, pops out. It'll probably take about, I don't know, 15-20 minutes to do this lot. I would say for this amount of tomatoes, I'm probably going to end up with about 4 pounds of tomatoes to put in the freezer. It's maybe about half an hour of effort, half an hour of work. Like I said, you know, it's a rainy, horrid day today, so what else am I going to do? Well, there's a myriad of things I could do, but all the time and effort that goes into producing this beautiful food in the garden, you want to make sure you preserve as much as you can. Oh, I'm already dreaming of winter now and all the things I want to make. Right, I'm going to pause you guys for a minute because this is going to be quite boring and no one wants to sit and watch me peeling tomatoes for 20 minutes. So that's all the toms skinned, and you can see this. There's sort of some of the pulp is staying quite whole, and then there's a lot of juice as well. So the next bit is my absolute most favourite bit to do, because it's how I vent my anger on politicians and goodness knows what else. Now I'm going to give it all a quick blitz in the blitzer. Let's see, get a bit more in. And then once it's, I'm going to tip that into there, and then once it's all blitzed, I can then div it into portions. The reason I'm not going to blitz it and put it straight into a box is because then with some portions I'll end up with more pulp and other portions more juice, and I want it to be evenish. So let's have a blitz. This is the best bit. It really doesn't need much. If I'm feeling really angry, I hold my finger down for 3 minutes. I'm kidding. So there'll be a couple of little lumps and bumps in it. Absolutely, doesn't matter. The main reason for doing this is, as I said earlier, it's just a way of being able to pack absolutely loads into the freezer. This way I can do my little 500ml portions in my boxes, which is the equivalent of about a tin of tomatoes or a little bit more, and so many recipes call for a tin, so it's perfect. Another blitz. Oh, doesn't that feel good? I love it. Absolutely love it. Okay, well, let me get the rest of this blitzed and come back in a second. So they're all blitzed. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Now it's just a case of portioning them out. Oh, look, I'm such a messy girl in the kitchen. How many am I going to get? I'm so messy. Never mind. Doesn't it just make you long for winter and gorgeous cosy afternoons in the kitchen making yummy food? Oh, I can't wait. Something else you need to factor into the timing when you're doing any of your produce storing is how long it's going to take you to clean the kitchen afterwards. Oh, dearie me. Nearly there. So satisfying. So I reckoned that was going to be about £4, and I think I was right. Happy, happy days. Oh, this one's going to be awkward and I've made a mess there, never mind. Last little bits. So now you see what I mean about bottling. If I was bottling, I'd be doing £9 at a time. But waiting for another £5, well, I don't know that I would have got it. So there we are. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So there we have it. That's another £4 of tomatoes, blitzed, ready to go in the freezer. I'm going to let them cool down a little bit. I'll pop them in the fridge for now just to get them a bit cooler because they're still a little bit warm from having the skins boiled off. And just to say, actually boiling the skins off, it kind of acts like a blanch as well. So these are good to go. I can't wait for a windy, stormy, wet November day when I can hoik a portion out and make some yummy tomato soup from them. But in the meantime, I will say cheerio, happy harvesting, happy processing, happy tidying up the kitchen afterwards. Take care.